At what point did your son start talking to you as if you were a service that is required to function, instead of a mother who deserves respect? Because this does not come out of nowhere. A child does not lose respect by magic. He learns it little by little, day after day, in small details that you yourself normalized. And yes, it hurts. Of course it hurts because you gave everything, but sometimes giving everything without order does not teach love. It teaches that there are no limits with you, that your time has no value, that your voice can be ignored. Stay with me, Gabriel here. Welcome to the Stoic Garden. Today we are going to look at 7 very specific reasons why a son ends up losing respect for his mother, and we are going to do it with a wise and practical perspective so you can find your center again without yelling, without chasing, and without living with guilt. And by the end you will have a clear stance so that respect can return where today it seems to no longer exist. Let us begin. 1. You sacrifice too much and teach him that your time has no value. And no, this is not a mother's love in its purest form. It is something else dressed up as love. It is being always available, always ready, always rushing, as if your life were a waiting room and real life only began when he needed you. Because the message he receives is not the one you think. You think you are telling him, "I love you." But what gets engraved in him is, "You have nothing better to do, you are here for me, you will adjust." And if you yourself treat your time as if it were cheap, why would your son treat it as something valuable? You cancel plans for him, change your schedule for him, postpone your rest for him, and on top of that you do it with that energy of, "It is no big deal." Of course, it is no big deal. For him, for you, it is. It piles up. It rots inside. And when a child sees that his mother swallows everything, he starts to believe that is normal. Mom puts up with it, mom adapts, mom does not count. And at some point you start charging for it indirectly. It slips out in whispers, in complaints, in exhaustion, in looks. And there he does not learn to respect you, he learns to avoid you. He learns how to handle you. Because when someone does not set clear limits, they become predictable. And for a teenager or an immature adult, what is predictable gets used. Think about it for a second. In the middle of any ordinary week, if you drop everything every time he calls, if you jump like an emergency alarm even when it is something silly, what is he learning about your value? What is he learning about your right to say, "Not now"? He's not going to thank you for it. He's going to assume it. And when something is assumed, it stops being respected. Seneca, who was certainly not a soft man, said it in a brutally simple way: "It is not that we have too little time. It is that we lose much of what has been given to us." And he wrote that for adults, but it applies perfectly here. Your time is your life in pieces. If you hand it out like wrapping paper, do not expect people to treat it like gold. Now, this is not about becoming cold or playing the distant mother. It is about stopping living like a satellite. Your son needs a mother with a center, with a life, with priorities. A mother who helps, yes, but who does not lay herself down like a doormat. Because respect is not born from how much you give, it is born from what you hold in place. Start with something uncomfortable but simple. When he asks for something, breathe before answering. Not as a cheap tactic, but because your impulse to save him is automatic, and what is automatic turns you into a tool. Use short, clear phrases with no long explanation. "I cannot today, not right now. We will look at it later." And hold the discomfort without rushing to explain your existence as if you needed permission. At first, he will look at you strangely. He will insist. He will test you. That is normal. He is checking whether the change is real or just another one of those resolutions that last 2 days. But when a mother takes back her time, she takes back her stance. And when you take back your stance, something in the house begins to reorganize, not by magic, by reality. 2. You solve everything for him and get him used to receiving without gratitude or respect. And here many mothers fool themselves with a very dangerous phrase: "If I do not do it, no one will." Right. And while you turn yourself into the solutions department, he turns himself into the excuses department. You handle his paperwork, fix his conflicts, make excuses for him with other people, clean up his mistakes, pay for his consequences, and then you wonder why he answers you as if you were his personal assistant. It is not that he is bad, it is that you trained him to expect everything to be solved for him. And when everything is solved for him, he does not develop respect. He develops dependence with an attitude. Gratitude is born when there is effort, when there is waiting, when something is valued because it costs something. But if every need is satisfied before it even fully forms, what is he going to value? If everything appears as if by magic, your son does not see a generous mother. He sees an automatic system, and automatic systems are demanded from, not respected. And be careful, this is not about leaving him adrift. It is about stopping rescuing him from every tiny discomfort, because discomfort is the gym where character is built. If you keep taking the weight off him, he will never develop inner strength. And the person who does not develop inner strength makes up for it with arrogance, with insolence, with that tone of, "I deserve this." At some point, while you run around trying to spare him frustration, he starts talking to you as if he were your boss. He orders you around, rushes you, complains to you, and you, to avoid an argument, solve it again. It is a perfect cycle. For him. For you, it is exhaustion with a motherhood label on it. Here is a painful question, but a useful one. If you always put out the fire before he feels the heat, how do you expect him to learn not to burn the house down? Because life is not going to have your patience. Life is not going to have your wallet. Life is not going to have your excuses. And yes, I know, but if I do not help him, he will sink. Funny how he only sinks in the things that are convenient for him. When it comes to asking you for things, he has a perfect memory and amazing energy. When it comes to taking responsibility, that is when he suddenly has no strength. What an elegant coincidence, right? Start doing something different. When he comes to you with a problem, do not rush to solve it. Ask him what he thinks he is going to do, what options he has, what he is going to take responsibility for. And if he makes a mistake, let the mistake have a reasonable cost. Not a dramatic punishment, a real cost. That teaches more than 1,000 speeches. Because in the end, helping is not solving. Helping is forming. And forming means tolerating your son's frustration, his anger, the way he looks at you as if you were the villain for not saving him. Hold your calm. Hold your limit. What looks like cruelty today becomes respect tomorrow, because for the first time he is dealing with a mother who does not infantilize him. 3. You tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict, and in doing so, weaken your authority. And this is where many mothers walk into a maze they later do not know how to get out of. Because in your head, the idea sounds nice, it sounds mature, it sounds peaceful. I'd better stay quiet so this doesn't escalate. I'd better let it slide so we do not fight. I'd better not say anything because he is stressed. And meanwhile, the disrespect grows like damp on a wall. At first you do not see it, but one day it has already taken over the whole house. The problem is that your son does not read your silence as wisdom. He reads it as permission. And if a hurtful comment gets no pushback, the next one comes out more easily. If a condescending tone brings no consequence, the next one becomes the new normal. And then you wonder why he no longer speaks to you kindly, because he learned that he can get away with it with you. Right in the middle of this point comes a question that never fails. Do you really think avoiding conflict today is buying you peace, or are you just funding a bigger conflict for tomorrow? Because that is what happens. You swallow one act of disrespect to keep the peace, but that peace lasts only until he does it again. And he does do it again. He always does it again. Some mothers say, if I set a limit, he is going to get mad. Of course he's going to get mad. He was comfortable, and when someone is comfortable taking advantage, a limit feels like aggression. But your son's anger is not an order, it is an emotion. And you are not here to obey other people's emotions as if they were laws. Epictetus, who was a slave before he became a philosopher, said it simply and without drama. What affects you is not what people say or do to you. What affects you is what you accept as true and what you allow to become normal. And that is gold for a mother. Because respect is not begged for, it is upheld. It is not argued into place with yelling. It is protected by the way you carry yourself. And here is the practical part. Do not wait for the right moment because it never comes. A limit is set in the heat of the moment, but calmly. Right then and there. No endless speech, no hour-long sermon, no moral lecture. Name the behavior and stop it. Not that tone. That is not how you speak to me. If you want to ask me for something, you do it respectfully. And if he keeps going, you walk away. Not to punish him, but to refuse to take part in the scene. Because when you stay in the argument trying to make him understand, many times all you are doing is giving him room to keep disrespecting you, now with extra arguments thrown in. He does not need to win the debate. He just needs to get you used to his way. And you, trying to avoid tension, end up training him to raise his voice every time he wants something. Authority is not yelling, it is consistency. If today you allow what tomorrow you want to forbid, your words become decoration. But if you hold a limit even when he is uncomfortable, something changes. Not necessarily right away, but it changes. He starts learning that there is a line with you. And when there is a line, respect returns. 4. You react from guilt and give him the power to manipulate you emotionally. This is a silent trap, because guilt is an easy button to push in a mother. And some children, without being monsters, learn the shortcut. They raise their voice at you and then hit you with the emotional blow. You are never there. This is why I am like this. If you loved me, you would do this. And that is where you fall apart. You soften. You start justifying yourself. You give in. And he learns that drama buys power. Guilt makes you react fast, as if you had a debt to pay. And when you react fast, you react badly. You do not choose. You defend yourself, explain yourself, promise things you cannot keep. And in the end, guess what stays in his mind? That if he presses where it hurts, Mom folds. Look at it coldly. Is your son speaking from a real need, or is he using your sensitivity as leverage to get his way? Because there is a huge difference between I feel lonely and do what I want, or I will punish you with my anger. And when you mix it all together and respond out of guilt, you turn him into an emotional strategist. Sometimes the guilt also comes from you toward yourself. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I made mistakes. Maybe I was not enough. And yes, all parents make mistakes. But responsibility is one thing, and living on your knees is another. Responsibility builds. Guilt chains you down. Responsibility leads you to correct things with dignity. Guilt leads you to hand over your self-respect just to calm the other person down. The practice here is hard but clean. When that feeling shows up that, I have to fix this right now, you pause, literally. Breathe, and ask yourself whether what you're about to do is coming from love or from fear. Then speak without stepping into the game. I hear you. What you feel matters to me. But I will not accept you speaking to me like that. If you want to talk, we will do it respectfully. And if he tries to drag you into the swamp of, you are the worst mother, do not buy the ticket. Do not justify yourself like someone on trial. Stay grounded as the adult. Because respect is lost when you present yourself as permanently guilty. And if you treat yourself like someone who has to make up for things, he will treat you like someone who has to deliver. That is not a healthy relationship. That is emotional bargaining, and you are not a guilt ATM. Calm is not swallowing everything. Calm is choosing. And when you stop responding from guilt, he loses the remote control he had been using for years. At first, he is going to press the buttons harder, like when a remote stops working and people start hitting it. Hold your ground. Let him be angry if he wants. Let him throw a fit if he wants. You are still his mother, but you are no longer a hostage. 5. You lose your boundaries out of fear of losing him and end up losing respect. This is the paradox that breaks many mothers inside. You think that if you are firm, you will push him away. You think that if you say no, things will grow cold. You think that if you enforce consequences, he will stop loving you. So you become flexible, but not wisely flexible, fearfully flexible. And fear always has a smell to it. A child senses it even if he cannot explain it. When your boundaries depend on his mood, his look, whether he speaks sweetly to you today or ignores you, they are not boundaries anymore. They are negotiations. And if you bargain away your dignity for scraps of affection, he learns that your word has a price. Today you say no, tomorrow you say yes because you felt guilty. The day after that you say yes because you felt afraid, and in the end your no stops meaning anything. It becomes background noise. And that is where the famous silent blackmail shows up. He does not need to say, if you do not do this, I am leaving. All he has to do is withdraw affection, give you an attitude, ignore you. And you, just to get the connection back, give in. It is as if you had to pay emotional tolls just so he would treat you normally. What a great deal for him. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who carried the weight of the world and still trained himself inwardly, repeated one simple idea. You have power over your mind, not over external things. and a mother needs that tattooed on her forehead. Because if your boundary depends on him approving it, then you are not choosing, you are reacting. And when you react, you lose your center. And when you lose your center, you lose respect. The practical part here is uncomfortable, but it gives you your breath back. Decide where your line is when you are calm, not when you are at the edge. Define what behaviors you will not tolerate and what happens when they appear. And when the moment comes, do not explain it as if you were apologizing for existing. Say it and hold it. No yelling, no theatrical threats, no "I'm going to make myself sick" show. Firm and clean. And yes, it can get ugly at first. He will test you. He will push. Because he had been holding the wheel for years and now you took it away. You do not need to beat him. You need to hold your ground. Because respect does not come back when you become nicer. It comes back when you become clearer. And clarity, even if it is uncomfortable at first, brings peace in the end. 6. You give up your own life and make him the center of your identity. And this is delicate because it does not look like a mistake. It looks like a devoted mother. But when your life shrinks until it fits inside your son's life, something gets thrown out of order. You are no longer his mother. You are his orbit, and no one respects a person who lives like a shadow even if they love her. Some mothers do not realize they have stopped having conversations that are not about him. They stopped going out. They stopped learning. They stopped taking care of themselves. They stopped existing as the main character in their own life. Everything is him. His problems, his schedule, his drama, his tastes, his complaints. And then when he speaks to you with disdain, you feel empty. Because if he shuts you out, everything shuts down. That is the danger of making a child your identity. Ask yourself this question. If tomorrow your son leaves, shuts himself away, or simply puts distance between you, what is left for you? What life is holding you up? Because if the answer is nothing, then you are not just looking for respect. You are looking for meaning. And when a mother looks for meaning in her child, she becomes vulnerable to every little gesture he makes. He controls you without even meaning to, just by existing. Of course, because your son not only has to grow, study, work, and build his own life, he also has to be your reason for getting up, your company, your project, your comfort, and your happiness. Poor kid. He cannot carry that weight, and you should never place it on him. A mother with a life of her own is not a selfish mother. She is an attractive mother in the healthiest sense of the word. She has a world of her own. She has judgment. She has energy that does not depend on her son's approval. And when you reclaim your life, you automatically reclaim something that had been lost, your presence. Not that anxious presence that hovers and watches, but the steady presence of someone who respects herself. Start small, a routine that is yours, non-negotiable, a weekly space that does not revolve around him, something that reminds you that you are still a woman, a person, a mind, a body, a story. And when he sees you moving with direction, without needing his emotional permission, something shifts back into place. Because respect is also born from seeing someone who does not abandon herself in order to be loved. And if you want your son to value you, you have to start by not treating yourself like filler in your own life. 7. You do not set clear consequences and disrespect becomes a habit. And this is the perfect closing point to everything above, because you can talk about boundaries, you can ask for respect, you can explain it 1,000 times, but if in the end nothing happens when he disrespects you, your home learns one very simple rule. He can get away with it here. Many mothers do this without realizing it. They threaten, warn, beg, repeat themselves, get angry, cry, warn again, and then, out of exhaustion or guilt, let it slide. Your son does not listen to your words. He listens to your pattern. And when the pattern is mom gets upset but gives in anyway, what he learns is not empathy, he learns strategy. Here is a question that brings you back down to earth. When he talks back to you and you still go on helping him, what exactly are you teaching him? That he can use an awful tone and still get what he wants, that your dignity is negotiable, that your boundary is just for show, and worst of all, that respect is optional. Now, a consequence is not revenge or childish punishment. It is not I take away my love touch. It is not I humiliate you. It is not I make you feel guilty. A consequence is a clear, proportional, predictable result when someone crosses a line. It is order. It is structure. It is the difference between a mother with backbone and a mother who spends her life chasing her son just to get basic consideration. This is where Stoicism becomes truly practical. Chrysippus, one of the men who built Stoicism into a serious discipline, said that the wise person does not alter his judgment because of outside pressure, but keeps it aligned with reason. Translated into your home, that means your standard cannot change depending on the tantrum of the day. If today you hold the line and tomorrow you fold, then there is no standard. There is only improvisation. The consequence is decided ahead of time, while everything is calm and carried out in the heat of the moment with calm. If you speak to me in that tone, the conversation is over. If you insult me, I will not do what you are asking. If you raise your voice, I walk away. Not because I am being dramatic, but because I do not bargain away my dignity just to keep a conversation going. And if he is already an adult son, the consequence can be even simpler and more powerful. Limited access, less availability, fewer favors, less access to your energy. The hard part is not coming up with the consequence. The hard part is holding it when he tests you, because he will test you. He will insist, minimize it, say you are overreacting, make you feel like a bad mother, try to bend you with silence or anger. And that is where many women collapse, because they confuse firmness with a loss of love. But love without structure turns into a swamp where everything is allowed and no one respects anyone. When you hold clear consequences, two things happen. First, you respect yourself, and that shows in your voice, your body, your eyes. Second, he understands that there is a real framework with you. And even if he protests at first, that framework gives him something he did not know he needed: clarity. A child does not calm down because he is indulged. He calms down because he knows where the line is. And this is what many mothers need to accept if they want to restore respect without destroying the bond. Your son can choose how he behaves, but you choose what gets access to you. If he chooses disrespect, then he is choosing distance himself. You are not throwing him out, abandoning him, or punishing him. You are simply no longer rewarding what is breaking you inside. And that is when, finally, respect stops being a request and becomes a natural condition for being close to you. In the end, a son does not lose respect because of one bad day. He loses it when he learns that mom erases herself, mom blames herself, mom adapts, and mom stands for nothing. And when you reclaim your time, stop solving his whole life for him, set boundaries without fear, step out of guilt, build a life of your own again, and make your words carry weight. Respect stops being a fantasy and starts becoming the logical result of the way you carry yourself. Take this into your real life today. You do not need to become someone else. You need to come back to yourself. Speak less from the need for his approval and act more from the need to respect yourself. Draw a clear line, repeat it once, and stand by what you said even if he gets uncomfortable. That does not make you hard, it makes you steady. And a steady mother is a mother who gets heard again. If this video put into words something you have been swallowing for years, subscribe to the channel and stay with me through this process. And I want you to leave a comment with this phrase, "I am Stoic," and tell me what country you are listening from, because you are not alone here. Here we are building character together, the way it is really built, through decisions. My name is Gabriel, and this is the Stoic Garden. On screen you will see 2 videos to keep going deeper, because this does not get fixed with one day of inspiration. It gets fixed through steady practice. Respect begins when you become the kind of woman who does not abandon herself.